Good evening, I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. Barbados is considering the Caribbean Court of Justice model as it relates to the appointment of the island's judges. Prime Minister Mia Motley is impressed with the system, as she believes the appointment of judges should not be left to the office of Prime Minister. With respect to the Trinidad and Tobago-based CCJ, she says no Prime Minister nor President has any say as it relates to the appointment of judges. Ms. Motley was speaking in Grenada at the launch of the CCJ public education program.
We should invite judges in our own domestic appellate and high court system to apply. And we are going to proceed with that kind of conversation with our own judges, because we believe it is the right thing to do to evolve our societies to a higher level of independence. But the CCJ has been doing it for 13 years. And therefore, you can have the comfort as Grenadians that this will not be as a result of who somebody like politically.
Ms. Motley revealed that although the CCJ's first judgment was against Barbados, it has made decisions that have impacted the island positively. She states Barbados now sends cases more regularly to the CCJ compared to what went before the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council.
7 times more. And that's what I mean when I say freedom is about choice. That people have the ability to go now and to make decisions because it's affordable, it's accessible. You've heard that the court can come to Grenada once you sign on. You've heard that even if it can't come to Grenada on the particular day, you heard what happened on the eve of our election when Commonwealth citizens felt that their rights were being aggrieved, and within days, and on a Sunday, had a matter heard before the court.
Meanwhile, it was announced by Grenada's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell that the country will vote in a referendum on November 6 on whether the Tri-Island state will accept the CCJ as its final appellate court.
This, sisters and brothers, will be indeed a bold decision, a decision that shapes the future of our country and of our region, a decision that signals our unwavering support and commitment to regional integration, a decision that places us on a trajectory to achieve even greater economic success. Replacing the Privy Council as Grenada's final court of appeal is beneficial for several reasons.
Barbados will be embarking on a 100% homegrown program with the International Monetary Fund. This is according to Senior Technical Advisor with the IMF to the Barbados government, Dr. Kevin Greenidge. The island has proposed the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation, or BERT program. Dr. Greenidge says once the IMF accepts the BERT program, it will not be telling Barbados what to do. Instead, Dr. Greenidge says what will happen is that the IMF will give Barbados the confidence it needs to go back on the international credit market, as Barbados has completely lost its credit worthiness. He was speaking during a media conference hosted by government's economic team at government headquarters this afternoon.
By endorsing your Barbados, let's call it the BERT program for short. By endorsing the BERT program, the IMF then provides what you call a catalytic role, because it has an international reputation by having 186 countries signed on. And when investors see the funds say, well, this is the BERT program is a doable program, we believe the country is committed to it, then immediately development partners like IDB and CDB will bring access to funds. Money is coming in on that. Funds comes in, and I can tell you right now we have commitments from IDB, 2% in GDP, which is 200 million, signing that the IMF endorses the Barbados BERT program, and 100 from CDB. So you see, and then private individuals and investors who have brought in capital to do different projects, but was fear that same thing may happen again, or the fiscal doesn't hold together, or there's just wind in the air, nobody really serious. They look and say, well, if the IMF is supporting your program, has endorsed your program, then we've seen in countries, capital comes back.
In his presentation, Dr. Greenidge says he believes the BERT program can put the island back on the right path. He says all restrictions to doing business must be removed.
Make sure that we can get projects back, get confidence going. Any impediment to generating growth needed, we got to deal with that. And it's quite easy to see some of them because the international community is constantly evaluating and analyzing countries. And if you go on the OECD website in trade facilitation, they'll point out some of what is deemed as impediments to growth in terms of Barbados. And we will deal with those.
Minister of Agriculture Indra Ware is keen to ensure local vendors have their voices heard during discussions on Barbados development. His comments came at his first meeting with officials of the Barbados Association of Retailers, Vendors and Entrepreneurs.
You would find that when stakeholders and interest groups are invited to the table to have dialogue, you often see those who are highly recognized. You would see in the tourism sector, you would see the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, commercial activity across Barbados, the Barbados Chamber of Commerce, etc. And I can go on, but oftentimes, if ever, you don't see Barvin. And that we now have to create that space for Barvin to also participate and be able to come to these discussions.
Meantime, Barvin President Alistair Alexander is optimistic that results can be reaped from collaborations with government.
We have long been looking to see a government that is serious about the enfranchisement of its people, understanding the importance of those who have played a historical, cultural role, significant role in this country. We are therefore not seeing problems either. We are seeing challenges. And the motto of our association is finding solutions through consultation.
2 people were forced to seek medical attention last night as a result of a 2-vehicle smash-up along the ABC highway. Lawmen say the accident occurred about 10:30 last night at the junction of the Adams section of the highway and Kingsland Road in Christchurch, near the Dighton Griffith Secondary School. As you see here, the 2 vehicles involved were extensively damaged. Now, police say the male driver of one of the vehicles was transported to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital by ambulance, suffering with injuries sustained to his left cheek and facial area. Another male who was a passenger complained of pain to both his feet and as a result sought private medical attention. Fresh on the heels of debate on the amendment to the Road Traffic Act, one store owner in the city has had it with the noise of the minibuses outside of his establishment. This is the Prasad Variety Shop in the heart of Baxter's Road. The usual hustle, bustle and noise is characteristic of a nation's capital. But when it comes to noise from minibuses, store owner Indal Prasad says it's driving him crazy. He's sick and tired of it and showed me a list he's been keeping of the chief offenders.
Most of them is just Python fans, you understand me? These mufflers, I don't know what they take out of the muffler, but this thing is too much noise, even for the public. Sometimes you might be in here, you can't even hear somebody asking you a question. So I don't know. I talked to somebody at MTW, they're telling me about writing the minister. You understand me? So I don't know.
So tell me how it affects your business personally.
Well, in a way, even though me and them fellas, I gotta blame the owners of the minibuses them because the conductor them and the drivers them are me as friends. You understand me? But at the end of the day, most of these buses you have to blame the owner. You understand me?
And Mr. Prasad maintains the noise is overbearing.
Sometimes I may be talking to you, and sometimes you never say anything. So there is a major thing. And I have all the numbers to them. So I like somebody from license authority to do something.
So have you written to the minister?
No. It wastes of time. Why should I write what the people at the transport authority doing?
But if you write to the minister, then you may be able to then say, well, I've written and nothing has happened or something has happened. So are you going to give it a try?
I don't know.
Mr. Prasad says he's hoping the government hears his plea and addresses what he calls the minibus noise pollution problem. The Democratic Labour Party is reshaping its image, and its new president, Verla de Pisa, says the DLP will remain relevant. Her comments come in the wake of a crushing 30-0 defeat in the May 24th general election. Ms. de Pisa admits there was a disconnect between the DLP and Barbadians, likening the election results to a referendum on the party. The DLP president was a guest on CBC TV8's Morning Barbados.
So our image going forward, we are reshaping, and internally as well, we are looking at how we do things. Also to get back to our basics, to make sure that as we build, we keep our philosophy intact, but sufficiently modified that we are relevant in the present society.
Ms. de Pisa, who is the first female president of the DLP, says the challenges remain the same. She says the various arms have met and the DLP is now focusing on how it presents itself to the public.
We have our PR committee, which will form the core of our activities going forward, and we expect to have a public face to engage with the public directly as well as through the media, both traditional media and social media. And the plans that we have going forward will continue with those two facets. In October, we will have a retreat for party members. Starting November, we will be interfacing with the public because we think it is important that we have the feedback, how we failed, how they see us going forward.
Well, there's a growing demand for rabbit meat in Barbados, and the Ministry of Agriculture has started its public education drive for farmers to ensure they can adequately satisfy those needs. The ministry held a training session in rabbit production at its Graham Hall headquarters yesterday. Coordinator Barney Callender says the meat is often requested for the retail and hospitality sectors.
In Barbados, there is a demand for rabbit meat. There's one or two supermarkets that are producing it on a weekly basis. That supermarket has indicated to me that they will like at least 50 rabbits every week. But at the moment, they're only getting 30. So we want to able to meet that demand. There are other industries or other supermarkets or restaurants who would like to have the availability of rabbit meat. And at the moment, we are way below in terms of rabbit production in Barbados.
And Chief Agricultural Officer Lennox Chandler says rabbit rearing can be quite easy.
They don't require a lot of space. They're very fecund, that means they breed rapidly, so you can build up your population fairly quickly. So rabbits will be ideal for a small backyard operation. However, one of the challenges that we face in Barbados is that we have got ourselves into this notion that we live in residential areas and we have these various covenants, so you can't keep a rabbit in your backyard. But you can have the biggest dog that barks incessantly through the night, stop the neighbors from sleeping.
The new Board of Management of the St. George Secondary School is on a mission to make that institution #1 in Barbados. That's a word from Deputy Chairman Joyanne Haig.
Every month we plan to put this school and their accomplishments for everyone to see. So look out for St. George and CBC at least every month. And certainly we want the public to know that with all the challenges that all of the schools have, we are dedicated as a board to make sure that we support the teachers of this school and the children to make the school #1 on this island.
The board has also started to enhance the school's environment through painting. Chairman Calvin Alkins says the new look classrooms are expected to be ready in time for the start of the next school year, which begins on September 10th.
What we decided to do for the first formers, we wanted to get them off to a good start. So we decided that what we would do, we would paint out the 7 first forms, which needed some sprucing up. And then from there we will work on the 2nd and 3rd forms and work through the school.
Trade unions in Trinidad and Tobago have agreed on a national shutdown in protest of the recent decision to close the oil refinery Petrotrin. The closure of the refinery is expected to result in the termination of some 2,600 workers. The Joint Trade Union movement is urging its members to engage in a day of rest and reflection next Friday.
JTUM feels betrayed. It says the same Prime Minister who marched with them, signed MOUs, and gave them certain assurances did nothing to preserve Petrotrin jobs. And they want him to call on Petrotrin to rescind its decision and come back to the meeting table. Now, the word war was used several times today.
What you have just done is announce war on the trade union movement.
If you are speaking words of war to JTUM, then we will respond in words of war to the government.
But what does that mean? JTUM tells us it has not yet made a decision on if it will withdraw from the National Tripartite Advisory Council, nor if it will actively push for the PNM to be removed from office in 2020. But while the Joint Trade Union movement is keeping its cards close to its chest, come September 7th, the day of rest and reflection is still on, and at least TUTA's president is playing his trump.
Schools will be devoid of teachers come next week Friday. Do not waste your hard-earned money to pay transportation costs, to prepare lunch, to send your children to school.
Dominica's Attorney General Levi Peters says incarceration can serve as a strong deterrent to would-be illegal gun owners and at the same time save lives. He was responding to concerns that jail time would not have a significant impact on those in possession of illegal weapons.
Gun-related incidents of recent days led to increased presence of heavily armed police in Grand Bay, Faucole, and Bath Estate on Tuesday. These efforts by law enforcement to rid communities of illegal guns follows 2 shooting incidents last weekend. Brian Alexander of Grand Bay was killed, while Lawrence Paul of Mont Prosper remains in intensive care.
The question as to whether if you impose more severe penalties, people will be deterred from carrying unlicensed firearms, I guess you'd have to suck it and see. That is to say, the sentences, more severe sentences would have to be imposed, and over a period of time we would see on the statistics whether or not it reduced the prevalence. My own view is, irrespective of whether or not it reduces the prevalence of carrying firearms, it probably would save lives, if nothing else. If you are in prison for 6 months or 3 months or a year, whatever it is, you can't carry a firearm, you can't kill anybody. And if you have shown a propensity to carry firearms, the likelihood is if you're carrying it, the likelihood is in the right circumstance, you will use it. So from my point of view, there is a deterrent element, I believe. I believe if people know that by being caught with a firearm, you are going up to stock farm, nowhere else, as in the Monopoly game.
Sports News is next with Anne-Marie Burke, but before we get there, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
Before the arrival of a hurricane, householders should clear their yards of all loose objects which may become dangerous missiles during the hurricane. Cooperators General Insurance, helping you to be prepared this hurricane season.